Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to start with our risk disclaimer. In particular, remind you there's risk of loss in all trading and investing, and in particular that all examples you'll see in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. They're not traded, they're there for educational purposes only. So make sure you read the risk disclaimer here, because it's important to understand that there is risk of loss in trading and you have to be careful when you're trading out there. Right, let's move on to have a look at some charts from yesterday. In particular, I'd like to start with a few automatic setups on the E-minis from yesterday and show how trading can be frustrating. Again, there are too many software vendors who just show you good whizzy trades and profitable trades and don't show you the other side of the coin. In other words, show you that sometimes trading can be hard. In fact, it's what I call the cyclical nature of trading, whereas trading goes through good times where you have profitable trades, goes through bad times when you have losses. Of course, you have to control the losses by using correct position sizing to keep those losses small and under control. And then you have frustrating times when the pattern's unclear and things don't go as anticipated. So let's have a look at the NQ from yesterday. This is a good example of this. Just on our standard MTPredictor trade setups, you can see our MTP trend was red yesterday. There would have been a sell setup here. You can see by our history triangle. Remember, we don't hide anything. You would have been unlucky if you'd been taken in there. So if you'd been trading yourself, you may not have got your order in before that was actually filled. You can see it would have just come in on that tick there. So you may well have missed this trade setup entirely. But let's take a worst case scenario and assume you were filled. You'd have been stopped out for a 1 hour loss. Guess what? Losing trades can, will and do happen. I'll repeat that. Losing trades can, will and do happen. It's part of trading. We then have another trade set up here. If this bar would not have been filled, so the next red bar would have been this one. Here you would have been entered a short trade here, went down to its first target very nicely actually, right down there for a plus 2.2R profit. This is the good thing about using position sizing. When the profits come through, they're large, but large in relation to the losses. You then had another trade setup a bit later in the day here, a buy trade setup. This would have actually taken you in and then stopped you out and would have had another losing trade. So you'd have had a minus 1 hour loss, a plus 2.2 hour profit, a minus 1 hour loss. That TS4 sells against the blue MTP trend would have been avoided. This VS buy setup, if you'd taken it, would have probably come out on close just for a small profit about there, so about 0.3R. But let's take it as if that was break even. So you could have actually come out here with 3 trades or maybe 4 trades, 1 break even, 2 losses and 1 small profit. But overall minus 1 plus 2.2 minus 1 plus 0 we'll call it would have been about break even. So in other words, a frustrating day. You'd have been doing some trading and got nowhere. But the point being is the losses would have been kept small and under control. This is what I mean about a frustrating day, is that sometimes the markets can just be frustrating. This is what they do in real life. On the YM, there was a lovely TS2 sell setup here that didn't reach the first target. But what you should have noticed is as it came down on this bar here, there was a VS bar. And I'll show you why it's important in a minute to go beyond our automatic setups and do some manual trading yourselves, in that because this VS bar came down, went below the previous low there, and then failed to follow through, it indicated that professionals were coming in here and then looking to potentially move the market long. So at the very least, you should have had your stop to break even here. If not, starting to trail at perhaps the 1 bar lows. If you'd done that, you'd probably been stopped out for a small profit. But one market I want to look at is the ES, because this is where it's important to keep an eye on the markets, and in particular why we do training above and beyond just our automatic setups to get you to understand our setups and understand what the markets are doing. In particular, I want to use bar of replay and I want to go back to here. Here's the market is come down a bit, moving sideways. Let's put a DP support off this low. Remember, these can be on the chart in advance, so it gives you an area of potential support. Now what I want to show you is what happened the next bar. If we go forward, can you see how this bar here went through the previous low, which was here, went into our support zone on high volume. Normally this indicates selling, or this is what amateurs think, but what we do at MTPredictor is we look at the very next bar. So the very next bar failed to follow through. Can you see that? It gave a blue buy bar, but more importantly, it gave you a blue buy bar at your DP support. So this indicated that the high volume on the previous bar was not selling, but it was actually professionals buying. As such, the market then was likely to rally. I'll place a DP on from the last pivot high, and this can give you a potential trade setup. We place our manual risk to reward in around your blue buy bar with the target at that DP, and you can see it's just slightly greater than a 2 to 1 risk to reward. The one thing I will say about this is because this is a high volume VS setup and professionals are looking to enter the market if the market starts to rally off these levels, is that most of the time, because the professionals are entering the market will move further. In other words, it will tend to go beyond these levels here, and that's exactly what happened. If I turn the trading mode off, you can see this caught the very bar of the low of the day. The market started to rally, went beyond this level and went up into basically this choppy range here. So what you could have decided, if you wanted to run this a bit further, rather than looking to come out at the first target, use our ATR stop, which is our blue dots, and then run it up to those levels for a near 5-hour profit. So that would have been very nice indeed. But of course, you'd have had to be looking at this and watching this market and known what to look for with a VS setup. Now, in the old days, this was always a manual trade setup, and as you can see on the 3-minute chart, you did have to find this as a manual trade setup. However, on the 5-minute chart, just take everything off here, it did actually come in as a automatic VS setup. There's our trade setup there. Almost the same as we would have seen on our 3-minute chart. The only difficulty with that, it would have been against our MTP trend. If you'd now gone down to a shorter time frame, the 2-minute chart, the setup would have been very nice indeed, because there's your VS buy setup. Our MTP trend turned black, because if I take the DP off this previous low here, can you see how this is now indicated as being major support on your 2-minute level? So see that major? So that was indicating that it was major support at that 2-minute time interval. So that would have given you a perfectly valid and automatic MTPredictor trade setup. Let's place the analysis on, up into the first target there again for, again, approximately 2 hours. Just as I suggested on the 3-minute chart, you may want to run that a bit further using the ATR stop up into those levels for almost 5 hours. But this is a good indication of why it's important not just to follow one market on one time frame. In other words, it's important not to just follow the YM, because you'd have had one trade there and had to try and do some manual adjustment, or just follow the NQ. As we've seen, there would have been a few trades of which you'd come out break even for the day. A frustrating day, I think. Or on the ES, again, if you were following just the 3-minute chart, you'd have had to known to look for this setup manually. But again, that's what MTPredictor is about. We're not a black box system. We're not a system where you just look at one time frame, one market, and then look to trade all the signals blindly without any understanding what it's doing. What we want to do is try and teach you how markets unfold. Have a look at the volume, have a look at these bars in and around these levels, and understand what the market's doing. You can then set up trades yourself and make your own trading decisions in and around these levels. Remember our key principle of keeping the losses small by using correct position sizing, then looking for trades that are larger than the losses by using our position sizing there. So that's what we're looking for. Or you could then, knowing that the 3-minute chart was looking like a VS setup, you could then use your scanner. Here's the scanner running here, and when the setup comes in on the scanner, which it would have done at the time on that 2-minute chart, you could have looked at that and said, well, actually on the 2-minute chart, I now have a perfectly normal valid trade setup on a black MTP trend. It's a valid MTPredictor trade setup. Therefore, I'd like to take that one because it's not only a VS setup on the 2-minute chart, it fits in with my manual analysis on my 3-minute chart, which you can see there, and it's also, as we've seen, on the 5-minute chart as well. For you guys who are Elliott Wave guys, let's just take this off. I just want to take that off as well. And you like to place manual Elliott wave counts on the chart, you can do this by using our WPT module and do manual clicks using our WPT module. Starting at the high there, that would be wave 1, that would be wave 2, that would be wave 3, that would be wave 4, and as you can see the low of the day came right in at the minimum wave 5 WPT. So if you're a more advanced user and are experienced with Elliott wave and can place your own Elliott wave counts on the chart, then that would give you added incentive or added confirmation of a potential low coming in there. But the main reason is because of the DP support and that bar there breaking through the previous low on a high volume VSA bar, and the next bar failing to follow through to give an indication that professionals were coming in and looking to move the market higher. It would have been really nice if this had been an automatic setup on our 3-minute chart, but the algorithms just didn't quite click into place for that. But as I've shown already, there was on the 2-minute chart, and there you go, our VS buy setup nailing the low of the day. So the point of today's video is to show you that markets can be frustrating. In other words, as we've seen on our NQ, a frustrating day, just looking at the 3-minute NQ. And on the YM, again, can also be frustrating, but the more experienced users can look to manage their trades a bit more aggressively, knowing about how the market's unfolding, in particular this VS setup. Or if you're more experienced with MTPredictor, doing your whole manual trade setup in and around that VS bar on the low of the day there. Oops, sorry, I did my manual risk reward coming in there to nail the very low of the bar there. But this is what MTPredictor is all about. It's not a black box system. It's not to be followed blindly. It is a tool set for the more experienced trader to be able to find and then analyze and then decide on what trades they want to take based on their own individual analysis. And that will be different for each trader, because each trader has a different level of risk, has a different level of aggression, and will basically be able to use the tools in a different way. So that's MTPredictor, a tool set to be able to uncover some trades in the markets. And my favorite yesterday was that VS setup that came in beautifully on the 2-minute chart.